What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. And in today's video, we are back with another Detroit Lions preview / prediction. And today, we're diving into the Lions-Vikings matchup, an opportunity to win the NFC North for the first time in Lions history. So let's get it started. Welcome, everybody, to a video. Glad you guys are here. And yes, man, we are back with another one of these preview / prediction videos. And I am fired up about this one. First off, there's a lot on the line. Not only for what the Lions can accomplish in terms of potentially winning the NFC North, but there's also opportunities in just terms of playoff positioning as well. The Lions still have yet to clinch a playoff spot, though they're very close. It has not happened yet because the Rams won last night. So there's still things that need to go down. But simply put, the Lions win a game, they win the division. And right now, they have an opportunity to go to Minnesota and pick up right where Dan Campbell left off last year when he said,
because now the idea will be down the road. All roads go through Detroit. That's the way we got to think, man.
Well, if you want that to be the case, it starts this weekend because you can lock up at the very least a first-round home playoff game, which would be amazing. And again, I know a lot of Lions fans have never seen us win the division. It's been a long time, 1993. And the Lions have a chance to do that this weekend. So I'm just grateful to be a part of this, man. I'm excited to see this, and you know the Lions fans are going to be fired up. Now, before we get into this preview / prediction, quick little announcement. Some new merch on the Dodge Shop. I know it's been a minute since we've talked about this, but there is new merch over there right now. And as you can see, the slogan is, "It's okay to believe." We got a couple different designs up there. Shout out to my guy that makes those designs. They're always incredible. But this was something that kind of hit me. We were on a road trip back home, and as y'all know, DoseOfDion, sometimes he can be a little pessimistic. And I think I said to him, it's okay to believe. But I think some Lions fans need that reminder, man. Maybe you've been a Lions fan for a long time, and you sometimes forget that it's okay to believe in the Lions. It's okay to believe that the Lions are a good football team. And that's what that shirt is there to represent. We have different ways that you can wear it, shirts, sweatshirts, however you want to do it. But that's over there right now on the Dodge Shop. Now, I'm doing this after having recorded the video. So if I say a player that's actually not playing in this game, I apologize. I tried to cut those parts out. But as you can see, CD Deuce and Jason Kabinda are both still out. They're going to remain on IR, as we see here. Those guys returning in their first week to practice this week. Jerry Jacobs also out, means Kendall Vilder, Khalil Dorsey will get the look at cornerback once again. Brock Wright is out, so expect some James Mitchell. Derek Barnes being doubtful is something to keep an eye on. Of course, we have Malcolm Rodriguez. We love the depth that we have there specifically. I think we definitely have the depth for this, but we're going to have to start to lean into that a little bit here. Levi, though, expected to play. So is Frank Ragnow, which is, to me, the biggest thing on this, and we'll talk about this later. Onto the Vikings side, Daniil Hunter expected to play as well. Alexander Madison actually might give it a go, so we might see Madison and Ty Chandler in this game. Byron Murphy's out, so we're going to see Mekhi Blackman. I'll talk about him a little bit more later in this video. Brian O'Neill's also questionable, so it may not be Questenberry. It could actually be Brian O'Neill at right tackle, but first day with limited participation, so we'll have to keep an eye. Bullard, questionable as well. Harrison Phillips, questionable. It seems like a big positive there. Him in limited participation. They would love to have him out there, as well as Ivan Pace. Let's get into the preview / prediction side of things. Now, we're not going to have the final injury report in this. I may put it in later just because of when I'm recording this video, but let's start with the Minnesota Vikings offense. Now, offensively, this is not a high-scoring offense, statistically speaking. They're also not very electric in terms of the yards they put up as a rushing offense. They are 22nd in yards per carry at 4, and also 23rd in terms of yards per game, under 100 rushing yards per game. However, when we start to break down the pieces that this offense does have, the first thing you have to start with, of course, is Nick Mullins. And we'll get to this a little bit more in terms of their passing attack, but they've had changes, and it starts at the quarterback position, which makes them a little bit different. And I didn't think Mullins actually played bad versus Cincinnati. He just had 2 bad plays. He threw a pick 6 on a screen, and then he had an interception when he was taking a sack. He kind of just threw it up, and it got picked off. Outside of that, though, he actually did play a really strong football game, made some really good throws under duress, found a way to keep the chains moving, and historically has a very high completion percentage. So I didn't think Nick Mullins actually looked bad in that game. Then when you look at their pieces offensively, we know they have tons of weapons, specifically in the passing attack. But starting with their run game, when you look at this offensive line across the board, it's a pretty strong offensive line. Even at both tackle positions, if Questenberry has to start at right tackle, he hasn't played bad either. Now, O'Neal is their typical right tackle starter. Of course, they have Christian Darrisaw. And then in the interior, they have some moving pieces. Dalton Reisner at left guard. At center, they have Garrett Bradbury, who we've seen for a few years. And, of course, they have Ed Ingram at right guard. They have some hit and miss, I think, results there in the interior like a lot of teams do. For me, I really circled Dalton Reisner as a guy, whether you talk about getting pressure or stopping the run, where you can have some success. But you would love love to see the Lions win that matchup with their interior pieces against their interior offensive line. When you watch how this team plays schematically, there's a couple things to keep in mind. Number one, they are not afraid to go heavy personnel, multiple tight ends. You'll get a lot of 12 personnel looks. TJ Hawkinson, they have Oliver as another tight end. They have Munt as another tight end. So they will go heavy personnel offensively. They also have CJ Ham, who they can put in as a fullback as well. So there's that aspect to their offense. And then their rushing attack, man. One thing that I noticed is that they love to attack that two technique or that two-eye technique with a lot of their inside zone rushing.
Now, here would be an example. They go at the three tech on this play. Now, this is more of kind of a strong double team look, a little bit more of the dual look on the interior here. And you can see the heavy personnel usage, and that's where you want to get one of those wins. I think the edge defender is going to be in a lot of the action here against the tight ends, staying square to the line of scrimmage. And then those are the guys that are able to step through and make the difference.
We'll attack that position both in their inside zone rushing attack and their outside zone rushing attack, kind of that nose tackle look, which again is usually the Isaiah Buggs, the Benito Jones, maybe even a little bit of a Broderick Martin. So I'd keep an eye specifically on that position in this game, like last season with some of their outside zone rushing attack. When the Lions would go into some of their overfronts defensively, they would hit you with a lot of weak side zone runs. So I think that position in particular on the defensive line is going to be crucial.
And here again, you get another weak side zone rush. Now, it's a different front look, so they're going to go at the three technique here, but it's really, again, the backside that's key. You can see the tight ends on their edge, so they walk down Pratt on this play, and that guy gets sealed off, and they also seal off, of course, the four eye, so it sets up the cutback lane. Even though they went on the front side, the cutback lane is there.
This is led by Ty Chandler now, as we're expecting. He's probably going to be the number one back in this game, but last week he played really well. And Ty Chandler has a real ability to get outside the tackle box and make plays happen. And again, some of that outside and inside zone rushing where he's able to cut back and make plays outside of script, that's where he gets a little bit dangerous, and we've seen that these last few weeks. Then you would also have to keep an eye on the edge defender position. For whatever reason, these guys seem to be important all the time, no matter what kind of rushing scheme they're throwing at you. We saw last season Aiden Hutchinson had some big plays against the run, and I think specifically against some of that outside zone rushing attack where they try to seal with tackles, or maybe they'll get tight ends involved as well, to be able to shed those blocks immediately, create tackles for loss in the backfield. Again, I think that's an excellent opportunity, especially with some of the weak zone rushing, because now they're going towards a lot of times the Aiden Hutchinsons. So a guy like that gets very involved. Maybe they try to move away from that in this game and say, oh, let's go up, let's go at Pascal, let's go at Kaminsky, but I would really keep an eye on Hutchinson giving up some big plays against the run. It'd be nice to get them behind the chains. And then they have a nice little mix of some of the counter runs as well, zone counter rushing, but specifically counter with pulling offensive linemen. And again, this is where you get the test of your off-ball linebackers being able to read, react, be disciplined against the run specifically. But again, those edge defenders seemingly come into play as well, because when they pull offensive linemen, a lot of times you'll see them pull outside of an offensive tackle, which means that a lot of times they get those edge defenders in the mix, meaning that you have to make those guys miss. And one thing that I did notice with the run game, they seem to have some issues picking up guys when they pull offensive linemen outside the tackle box, and it seemed like a lot of defenses were able to have success forcing those guys to miss their blocks. So again, that's an area where I think that's position again can be very successful and can be the game changers against their run in particular. Always, man, I want to give a shout out to BetUS, our partner for the season. If you use that top link in the description, deposit at least $100, you can get a 125% match up to $2,500. As you can see here, this is the BetUS website. If you create an account, you can also get into the live betting as well. As you see on the top, you have your sports book, which is where I kind of live here. You also have casino games, race book, and then of course you also have to check out the promotions. If you're going to use BetUS, check out the promotions, whether that's re-up. When you go to the sports book, what I love is first off, you have just tons of variety available to you. As you can see, football, basketball, ice hockey, baseball. I mean, you can throw all the way down to finding handball, lacrosse. I don't even know what snooker is, to be honest with you. I've never even seen that before, but that's on there as well. It's a sports book. I love to go to football on the left here, and then I go to odds and lines, and here you can see all the lines for the game. Now, if you are signed in, you can do live betting, and those lines will change as the game goes on. But as you can see here, as of the time I'm recording this, here are our lines for this game. Now, I'll scroll down to this Lions-Vikings game, and if you click on this markets option, this is where we make our prop bets each week. What I love are the game props, and this is where you can select specific players. For example, interceptions. You think Nick Mullins is going to throw a pick, maybe Kirby gets one, you could bet the over here, and you could build out a parlay ticket, or you could also just check out some of their pre-built parlay odds, like this, for example. Brock Wright having 1+ touchdown and a Lions win, plus 1,075. Of course, they also have the props builder, which I absolutely love, where you can find an individual player from a specific game, and you can build out props for that player, as well as futures betting, like this, for example. Maybe you want to bet on the Lions winning the NFC North. Like, it's happening, it's going to happen. That's something that you can bet on here as well. MVP, Coach of the Year. Then if you make bets with BetUS, you will be joined into their loyalty program by just making bets with BetUS. And if you get into their loyalty program, as you can see here, you can work your way up through their loyalty tiers. And when you do that, there's other rewards that come with it. Free payouts, bigger bonuses, also a toll-free number. And then, of course, if you have any questions, they do an excellent job with customer service or communication, emails, FAQ page. So if you do have any questions, and as you can see, that loyalty tournament's beginning soon. They have loyalty tournaments all the time. So check out BetUS. Click that top link in the description. Again, deposit at least $100. You get a 125% match up to $2,500. Shout out to BetUS, and let's get back to the video. Finally, they'll throw in that little mix of kind of the draw plays. It is one of the teams. Not every team really uses draw plays in their offense, but they absolutely will, specifically in pass downs, open up your linebackers, and then they can attack really anywhere on the interior. I would keep an eye on some of the draw plays, specifically if they get backed up behind the chains, for then kind of throw that into the mix. But again, this is a team that utilizes heavy personnel, and stopping the run is crucial because when they run the football, which is not something that they normally do, it opens up obviously all the play action because they're able to stay on top of the chains. And when you talk about these receiving weapons, it's their biggest aspect of this offense. They are loaded with receiving weapons. So the key is shut down the run. Make sure that their numbers stay near what kind of that season average is. And hopefully without Dobbs, you don't get as much of a rushing threat with Mullins. But it is really the key. And again, they're not bad on the offensive line either. So I'm focusing on those edge defenders and specifically those nose tackles in this game. Now with the passing attack, speaking of those weapons, this is where they're loaded. And we know this. We've seen these guys. We saw these guys last season. The big difference is this. Instead of now being Adam Thielen, it is now Jordan Addison. Last season at times, that guy gave us monster problems because you would focus on taking away Justin Jefferson, and then a lot of times that would leave Adam Thielen one-on-one. And he was working against Damani. We know that was a rough game. And I would not be shocked if that's the case again in this game, where when we're in man coverage specifically, that guy gets a lot of opportunities one-on-one. So the question to me really there will be, if the Lions are playing man specifically, how do they look to kind of take him out of the game, right? Let's think third downs, for example. Last time we played Minnesota last season, we saw the Lions going to a lot of man coverage on third down. And we've seen a pretty good amount of that so far this season. Now, not every team has done that, but it's usually been a mix between a cover 1 and cover 3 defensively, which still means you get those one-on-ones on the outside. Obviously, if you go to cover 1, the Lions were in a position where they could utilize that single eye safety and just put him over top of Justin Jefferson and try to bracket him in. We'll talk about that a little bit more on early downs. But then, of course, it would leave one-on-one opportunities usually elsewhere. Now, I have seen teams kind of double team TJ Hockenson as well and just let everybody else play on an island. So is that Kendall Vilder? Is that Khalil Dorsey one-on-one? Is that something where they follow? Or how do they play that defensively is what I'm curious on. Do they try to keep Cam Sutton on Jordan Addison and say, hey, look, we're just going to give a lot of help to this guy, specifically, again, on passing downs, third downs, not just every single down. That's a little bit different. But that's really the matchup I'm curious of. And again, if we're speaking man coverage, the tight end matchup. Last season, it was kind of just a lot of different pieces getting a look. Now, Alex will probably get a lot of that look in this game. Sometimes it'll be on the back as well. But he'll probably get a lot of that matchup on TJ Hockenson. But then you also have to keep an eye on potential, if it's clear passing down, on the Lions using Iffy. 3 safety looks potentially, using help elsewhere between Kirby and Tracy. And maybe Iffy gets some of those tight end matchups. It's been something that we've kind of noted these last few weeks, is that Iffy has been able to step in. Even though he hasn't been perfect, it's been a guy that has been able to kind of just sit into that role. And we know his ball skills are there. So if they want to find just a pure matchup piece, this could be the game where Iffy kind of shows himself like, hey, this is where I can really help you guys, even if that doesn't mean 3 safety looks. You talk about really the rest of the game. Of course, there's a lot of different kind of zone coverage you can throw at them, but I would definitely keep an eye on kind of what we did this past season with Aaron Glenn, and that is a lot of times when Justin Jefferson's on the outside, working to bracket him in, whether that's cover 6, that's cover 2 looks, keeping an underneath zone corner and someone over top. We'd see kind of the similar looks as well when he would get into the slot, because then again, you could kind of bracket him from the outside to the inside with whoever was that inside zone defender, and then of course the flat zone defender, and then you would keep a safety over top.
As good as this coverage sounds on paper, this is where we had breakdowns this past season. Again, you can see the Lions bringing that slot blitz to try to take away the boot action, but there in a cover 2, you can see Jeff Okudah, he ends up pulling upfield, and we end up getting 2-on-1 on the play. So leaving that flat exposed. If you're going to play cover 2, it makes sense, but you have to be on point.
The Lions were seemingly okay with maybe giving up some of those underneath receptions.
Now here's where you have to give credit to Mullins at quarterback. Here they go into a Tampa 2 look, and you can see he's able to hit this dig. Even with pressure, he's able to find Jefferson with the underneath drag route pulling down that underneath zone defender. So I think disguising coverage will be a key in this game.
You saw a lot of 2 high safety blitzing, which is again why it's key for the Lions to stop the run, because if they can stop the run, can get them into positions where they can play 2 high safeties and then blitz out of it. We've seen that where they play like a cover 2 blitz and they just leave one less underneath defender. There's a part of me that does believe that you could probably speed up Nick Mullins a little bit better than you could speed up Kirk Cousins last season. He may be a little bit shakier in terms of some of the answers that you get from Nick Mullins versus having a guy like Kirk Cousins at quarterback. So that could play even more into Aaron Glenn saying, man, I want to be aggressive in zone coverage to kind of take those things away. Going to some of those cover 3 looks, it's usually the same thing over and over, and it was the case against Cincinnati. It's whoever is on the outside win 1-on-1. Justin Jefferson or Jordan Addison. And specifically, it was a lot of times Justin Jefferson, because you go in cover 3, you're kind of 1-on-1, you're isolated outside the numbers. And it was out routes, it was curl routes, it was go to that guy 1-on-1. So the key to me there would be those flat underneath zone defenders. Get depth, get outside, right? Get outside the numbers, take away those throws, force him to make a hitch and find somebody else. Don't give him the easy completions. And I thought that's what Nick Mullins did a really good job of, identifying what the defense was sitting in and then just taking the easy completion, getting the ball out fast, not holding on to the football. It was like the ball's going out, I trust him to just go win that matchup. And I thought that's what they did versus some of those cover 3 looks.
And you can see here, man, the Vikings did a really nice job. Mullins hitting these tight window throws just like this. Cover 3, but they have the underneath route. It's all set up through their play action. And as you can see here, quarters coverage. They find the flat route on the play. So the play action, first down defense will be crucial in this one. And sometimes demand coverage can just be the most consistent results because you can double team what they like offensively. And if you can win up front, then of course you can try to take away their top option. Like a play like this where the Raiders essentially said, we're going to bring you a taste of your own medicine. We're going zero coverage in the back end. We're blitzing everybody. They had the completion here, but you can see for consistent results, sometimes this isn't the worst approach.
But I do have like a weird little suspicion that maybe there's something that the Lions could throw at this team to kind of trap one of those looks. Like last week we saw the inverted coverage, which of course had the forced fumble, and it was like, man, that was the big play that we had defensively. Maybe defensively in this game, the Lions look to kind of show and isolate a 1-on-1 matchup to Justin Jefferson because of how willing Nick Mullins is to just take that and move on, that maybe the Lions could try to trap it where they give you a look pre-snap of one coverage, maybe they give you like a single high look, tell you it's 1-on-1 on the outside, and then either the Lions roll out of that, try to get someone racing into the flat to take away kind of that high-low look and be able to kind of undercut one of those routes. I think that's an area where if you're going to say, hey, kind of trap this offense, maybe you try something like that in this game where you let them kind of settle into it and then bam, you hit them with something unexpected like that by inverting a coverage, giving them something a little creative out of it, just changing up what you're giving them pre-snap by a look that maybe you continue to give them throughout the game. We'll say this, they have had some nice answers to defenses that like to blitz, specifically with their RPO looks. That's not something that they're afraid to go into, even with Nick Mullins, is the run pass option, hand it off, pull it down, throw a slant. They'll do that if you start to show some of those blitz looks, like with your front, you just put guys on the line of scrimmage. So they have had that answer, and again, it's difficult because if you leave guys 1-on-1, you stack the line of scrimmage, it's difficult because you're not really getting necessary help immediately, so they trust those guys to win 1-on-1. So they have had a little bit of an RPO essence and look to their offense. So again, on third down, I kind of suspect the Lions would probably try to man up and give help to those two guys. I would think for me, the focus would be, hey, double team Jefferson no matter what. And then maybe if you want to give help elsewhere, maybe TJ Hockenson. However, Jordan Addison will be a guy to keep an eye on. Do the Lions try to put Sutton on him and say, hey, we're going to double team elsewhere, we're just going to put our best on your best or your number 2? Or are they going to say Kendall Vilder, Dorsey hold that matchup down? That could really be the key matchup to watch because just like we know in the past is that usually it's like, oh, Justin Jefferson, he's going to get the focus. But if he is the focus, the matchup then becomes who the heck is dealing with Adam Thielen. That could be the very similar case in this one. Who the heck is going to deal with Jordan Addison? Pressure spot, where can the Lions get it? Specifically to me, it's on the interior. It's over the left guard. I think you overload one side. You have some miscommunications that we've seen in pass protection when you can overload their interior, specifically by Dalton Reisner. So for me, on a pressure sense, I think getting after that interior is really the key in this one. A one-on-one spot, it would be attacking if they have their backup right tackle out there, Questenberry, and he's probably going to see a lot of Aiden Hutchinson. So naturally, I kind of love that matchup. They're probably going to give help to it, but if not, that's the matchup that I love one-on-one into this game. So obviously, defensively, it's going to be a challenge just because they're loaded with weapons, but we've seen it in this offense. The defense is different, but the offense, I mean, we've seen Kevin O'Connell in this offense is just a different quarterback now. So, we should have a better sense for what they want to do, though they're still dynamic and tough because they are loaded across the board. Defensively is where I think it's going to be the most difficult. To me, right, we have the Ben Johnson rumors coming out. This is what he's looking for. Agent's like, no, that's not true. Well, I'll tell you this, all right, whatever it is, this is how you get paid. You go show up and you have a really good plan against this defense. And that's not just because, well, statistically they're successful. Brian Flores, he brings a lot of pressure, first in the league, 47.7% blitz rate. Those things are true. But it's not just that, because like I've said, historically, we're really good against the blitz. Goff has been very good against the blitz in Detroit with Ben Johnson. So I love that aspect. However, this is a guy that last time he saw Jared Goff was in Miami as the Dolphins head coach back in 2020. Again, it was a long time ago, but it was one of Goff's worst games, I would say, with the LA Rams. It wasn't the worst thing ever. There was good throws that were made, but he threw the ball 60 plus times. They lost the game 28-17. He had a forced fumble, he had a couple of interceptions, and Brian Flores didn't hold back at all. That man just went after that passing attack, and I didn't think the offense did a great job of giving Goff answers, specifically sitting in empty, having no motion pre-snap. Like, I didn't think they did a great job of giving him answers, but man, they did everything they could to make that offense incredibly uncomfortable. And for them, what was helpful was having a rushing attack, right? Being successful on first down, allowing the play action to set up, having a rushing threat took some of the pressure off of Goff. But man, when they had to drop back and they went empty and they put everybody on the line, there was a point there where they were dropping out. It's like, oh, are they going cover zero? Are they going to drop out? I don't know. Let me find the hot. There's a guy on block. They picked it off. But then there was another point where they were just like, we're just blitzing no matter what. Everybody's rushing. Find something on the outside. And they found some answers, but once you start to kind of lean into, oh, this is what we like. We got it. All of a sudden, defense jumps it. So for me, this is going to be an awesome opportunity for Ben Johnson to find answers against this. And there's no surprise to me why Dan Campbell said what he said. This is a team that probably going to go through Saturday before we finish up the install, because this defense is very flexible and they've given different looks to different teams, specifically on third down, right? And we just talked about playing them on third down. They'll play different on third down based on the team that they're playing against. So when they play the Raiders, for example, right, what is their offense known for? Well, they have Jacoby Myers and they have Devontae Adams. So on third down, they would man up and they would basically play two-man or give help to those two guys. They'd let everybody else go. They'd say, hey, we'll give you the middle of the field. Those guys are not going to beat us. And that's some of the flexibility that they've shown. But that's just a little aspect of it. That's what they'll do on third down. Now, by nature, they're a heavy blitzing team, and I don't expect that to really go anywhere. I'm just curious, is this going to be closer to what we saw against the Rams, or is this going to be what I've seen so far this season as still a high blitzing team, but doing it in a different fashion? We're going to talk about that more in a second. Let's start, though, with their run defense, because when I look at this run defense, statistically speaking, they're 4th in yards per carry at 3.7, 5th in yards per game at 92. It is an excellent run defense, and I think the reason being is this. Number one, defensive back run support. Harrison Smith, their cornerbacks, they are all willing to step in and make a hit, but also the defensive line starts right in the middle, and it starts with Harrison Phillips. Now, I expect him to play, but we'll see. If he doesn't, right, it's a big loss, because to me, Harrison Phillips starts everything on that run defense. So if he's not out there, you have to take advantage. And if Frank Ragnow plays this weekend, it is that matchup, Frank Ragnow versus Harrison Phillips, because you're going to see him a lot as their nose tackle. They'll give you a lot of different front looks where they'll play him as zero technique. They'll shade him. You're going to get a lot of different looks from him on the front. However, it's consistently going to be that battle. Are you going to run to a shaded side? Then you better be able to seal up on the front side, right? His ability to quickly jump into his rushing lanes at the snap is so impressive, man. He has the movement skills to match zone rushing attacks over and over and then create knockback. He is the guy that starts this machine to me as a run defense, and he makes everything difficult as a rushing attack. Now, beyond that, they have really nice, I think, supplemental pieces like Jonathan Bullard. He's been kind of a difference maker, a guy that can play a 4-eye or 4 and work against your tackle, but shoot over to your guards and then again press upfield. He has a real ability to do that, and they're pretty strong across the board. It's good depth. It's not like, yo, look at Aaron Donald over there, but it's strong across the board with fast-flowing linebackers, Troy Dye. You throw in Ivan Pace, that defensive front that has had an ability to keep those guys clean, and that's where it starts to me, is that matchup. Positive is Lions offensive line hopefully is fully healthy again, and I like them against pretty much everybody. However, there is an aspect of this is a really good team against the run because it starts in the interior, and they are stronger there than I think a lot of teams that you will see, like the Chargers or the Raiders. They're stronger in the interior because of a guy like Harrison Phillips and Jacqueline Arroyo being able to step in for him. Now, when I look at it from a rushing spot, some of those inside zone rushing attacks, like I said, it's Frank Ragnow versus Harrison Phillips. That's the matchup. A lot of other matchups are going to take place, but that is the matchup to me. Are you able to seal him, right? Can you keep him behind if he's on the backside of run plays? How do you play that? How do you attack him at the line because he's so quick to get into the position? Side zone rushing, I would think that the Lions may use a fullback in this game, whether that's Sam Laporta or whoever, but trying to put that extra piece in the backfield to try to get you a position where you can grab a body, especially if they're in two deep safeties, but try to get an extra body.
On a play like this, you get that Okie front look, and you can see Harrison Phillips here able to get on top of the block, kind of disallow a double team where you can potentially get up to that second level, pick up Ivan Pace. They force the cutback lane, and then, of course, number 90 on the play. You don't get a clean seal, and he's able to spin off and make the stop.
Where I think they're a little bit weaker on the front is specifically sort of the edges. Not necessarily their edge defenders, but a little bit closer to the DJ Wanhams. It's a little bit closer to the tackle position, and that's where you find the outside zone rushing attack. That's where you find some of the zone counters that teams have ran against them.
Another example with Phillips. You can see there's a run lane that's open to the inside on this play, but notice he controls the center block inside and outside, so the running back doesn't know where to bounce. If he bounces inside, Harrison Phillips has the block controlled where he can step down. So here, while you do have an opportunity for a big explosive play, you see Harrison Phillips disrupts
and then,
everything.
Of course, the toss looks as well.
You see on a play like this, they go into this eagle front look, but patience from the running back is the difference. You can see it's initially blown up by Bullard on this play, but there's patience there. And you can see with Phillips, who's playing this 4-eye, peeks inside. You can get up to their second level with some of the light backers that they'll play, and they'll get on the line of scrimmage. So you can spring some things into the second level if you can get past that first wave, and patience is key.
The front they're going into, a lot of fronts that I saw them kind of work between was you would see some under fronts, 3 technique playing to the weak side of the formation over your guard, which meant on that strong side, again, Phillips in a 1 technique. Are you going to go at him? If you do, again, I like trying to get away from him, so get outside, attack their 5 technique, that defensive end, toss plays, Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Of course, he's a focus. I told you how their defensive backs are willing to step in and tackle. Harrison Smith is a complete difference maker in every aspect, but I also like how our receivers block, so I like that aspect as well. I think the outside rushing could be the difference in this game. If you get consistent movement on the interior, I think you change everything. I think you're in a really good spot for everything offensively, but if that's a little hit and miss, which it definitely could be, I circle Jahmyr Gibbs and what he's done. They like him everywhere, but just for some of that outside rushing, I think he could be a complete difference maker. We'll see if they change up what they do to try to take that away, but jet sweeps, even those as well, kind of just get rotated in. That way you could try to keep them off balance. Under center, if you could play out of under center against this team, I think you're in a really good spot. As soon as you're forced to live in a shotgun, it gets a little bit tricky, but the Lions' play action ability has been able to put guys in tough situations between having responsibilities of run and pass, and it makes it difficult in coverage. So I think mixing the ability to play under center by finding a rushing attack that's successful, that way you don't have to limit your pass game as much, but you're able to still run the football, is the difference in this game. But also on top of that, keep an eye on them changing tempo a little bit. I know that sounds completely random, but we've seen us do it on pass plays in particular, but changing the tempo a little bit. This is a defense that, again, likes to bring pressure, so a lot of times they'll stack the line of scrimmage. Changing tempo, I think, can be huge because of all the moving parts that they try to have. So you can almost have those moving parts work against them if you can find a rhythm, speed up, get up to the line, boom, sugar huddle, let's go, or also slow it down. I think changing tempo will be a nice little wrinkle for this game to hopefully help them out a little bit offensively. Now, in the passing attack, again, they're difficult here, and it starts with the pressure that they're able to create. They're not a big pressure team statistically, but it's more so about the amount that they blitz. Now, here's where the balance comes in for me. When watching this team, here's what I noticed. This season, first downs, they want to get after you. What makes them difficult is when they blitz, it's not blitz man. It's not blitz man, let's play man in the back end. When they blitz, they play zone. We've seen us do that too. But the problem is, number one, a lot of moving parts. Harrison Smith will play everywhere. Safety, he'll play like your middle linebacker. He'll play cornerback. He will play everywhere. So when you have that flexibility, there's a lot of moving parts, and they'll do it on first down. To me, that makes them difficult because it's hard to get stagnant looks from this defense. You're getting always different looks, while at the same time, they're willing to bring a lot of pressure on first down.
So on first down, finding quick answers to me is the key. Or if you can get it blocked up, maybe you can get a shot out of it. But just like this, because he can hide that he's blitzing on this play. When Smith walks down, you don't even know that he's rushing until the ball is snapped. You have the slant that's open, but it's just a small zone window, and you didn't know he was blitzing pre-snap. One thing I thought Cincinnati did well to attack these blitz looks was overloading a side of the field, maybe getting a tell, but in a play like this, for example, you utilize the trips to the right, and you're able to play whoever hits their zone. So again, you create leverage with the inside receiver, and you hit this corner route. Now, the running back, pass pro, you got to be able to pick up in this game. You have to be able to. Here he misses on the play. They still got away with it. But then even on here on this next play, you utilize fast motion pre-snap, a little loop motion. You hit the back out of the backfield, and again, you're forcing them to communicate and move on the fly. And if they want to put all those guys on the line, blitz, drop out, whatever they want to do, you get outside the numbers, but you make everybody communicate pre-snap.
And this is another thing that I love that Cincinnati did, their ability to get matchups on the safety position. Now, I do think in this game, we could have matchups on the outside one-on-one, Josh Reynolds, that we can win, but their ability, again, to overload one side of the field, then create matchups with their safeties was big.
Second thing is this. If they get you into a second and long, first down is not super successful, they're going to drop out and give you underneath. They want to get you into a third and medium plus. So they're going to give you things underneath if they get you into a second and long, which is why having success on first down is the key in this game, to me, because it changes everything of how they like to play defensively. If your first down play is a 4-yard run, you're in the driver's seat because now everything's still available to you, and them just sitting back in coverage trying to set you up for a third down is no longer reasonable because now we can run it. Now it's 3rd and 2. Now you can still do everything. everything. So to me, the ability to have success on first down will be the difference in this game, and will also give a lot of help to Jared Goff and take a lot of pressure off of him for a head coach or now a defensive coordinator and Brian Flores that's going to say, man, I think last time we played this guy, I got after him, I might come out and do it again. About dropping out, you'll get a lot of 3-man rushing, you'll get a lot of extra defender and zone coverage, you also get a lot of 2-high looks, cover 2, Tampa 2 looks, and to me, there's a couple ways we've seen the Lions attack that. A couple things I would keep an eye on. Number 1, speed in the slot. Jamison Williams, Khalif, putting speed into the slot, opening up that second level, dig routes, right? That's where you really open up that second level against this team, is when you can get them into some of those second and longs. Of course, the Tampa 2, they're going to give you a lot of checkdowns underneath as well, so you can take those. Laporta, Gibbs, we've seen that, right? Goff loves to take those, get the ball out, let them work after the catch with space. So you're going to get a lot of those, but the middle field can be opened up specifically through that slot position, mirrored routes on both sides. We've seen that this season. We saw it against Raiders. You mirror routes on both sides. You're able to kind of make the linebacker pick one way and you go right back to the other way. Go to some of their cover 3 looks, which to me, I always think a lot of teams are going to play a lot more of this against us. Sometimes they don't, but I always assume that they will. For me, they play with a lot of depth. All right, that's one of the standouts. I thought last year they did the same thing. They play with a lot of depth when they go to some of the cover 3. So they're going to give you, I think, again, some of those underneath completions. You're also going to have opportunities on one-on-one on the outside. So if you feel like you can win those, Josh Reynolds, Jamison, you go at that. Cornerback-wise, they're good at cornerback. Caleb Evans.
Now, this is an undersized corner, 5'11", just under 180 coming out of the draft, and this could be a spot where the Lions look to get physicality in this matchup. Laporta out wide, same thing with Donovan Peoples-Jones. Now, if they're in zone coverage, which a lot of times they do like to play as well, obviously it changes things up, but he's feisty, he's physical at the line of scrimmage. Could be difficult for guys like Jamison or Khalif, but if they're in off coverage, you love that matchup with that kind of quickness and that kind of movement skills to make it difficult on him all game long. So that number 2 matchup feels like it's going to be a big-time key, and I wouldn't be shocked the Lions try to put some physicality on that matchup.
A lot of that, again, comes back to what they do elsewhere. They play in quarters coverage. You got to look to St. Brown. To me, cornerback-wise, it's their worst matchup is Josh Metellus. He's played well this season. I don't like a lot of guys against St. Brown, but at the same time, especially in this one, I really don't like that matchup. I don't think he has the ability to keep up with St. Brown all day long, and we saw last time the Rams played Miami, Cooper Kupp was massive. He was always massive, but he was big on some of those out-breaking routes because he was able to get outside the numbers. He was able to minimize some of the pressure fronts they would give you up front, and it was making it easier for Goff to just say, I like that matchup, let me get it out there. Now, the danger with that is, like we saw that game, is that their cornerbacks will drop off. They'll play 2-high safety. So that's where you get the mix of, they're going to say, okay, if they're going to play quarters, they're going to play those looks, cover 3. Yeah, take the flat, right? Let St. Brown go work on the outside. Let Sam Laporta do the same. But if they start playing those 2-high looks, number 1, that's why first down is important. That way they can't live in that. But number 2, at the same time, that's where they're going to have someone sitting there. So they're going to try to take away those outbreaking routes, which, again, is where the middle field has to be opened up for the Lions. And I think they're capable of doing that. One thing that I want to see in this game, and I'm curious to see how it goes because I really don't know what Ben John's plan is going to be. That's why I'm so curious. But I would like to see the Lions try to utilize fast motion, short motion. Jamison Williams and Khalif Raymond should be game breakers if they try to do a similar thing to what they did to Jared Goff a couple years back. Those guys should be game changers because if you sit in man coverage, you should just have guys that can run away from that. And I think getting guys to fly across the middle of the field is key because they like to show these pressure looks even on first down. If you are going to come out, spread them out. That's where the second level has to be where you live because their depth will be thrown off. They'll be caught underneath. It's also where the play action becomes even more massive if you can run the football, but they'll show pressure looks even if you're under center. Second level is where you really want to be able to live, is where you really can have an opportunity to live. They can muddy it up because they'll rush, they'll drop out, but that's where, to me, the guys like Jamison Williams, Khalif Raymond, the speed that they have, they try to lean into man coverage. Those guys should be game breakers. I know you trust St. Brown one-on-one, but they're going to have an answer for that. Those guys, to me, can be game breakers in this game because it's a different element that a lot of teams don't have, specifically Jamison, that should be able to kind of take them away from wanting to do that defensively. And if they take him away, they're going to have someone else that's going to get exposed in that sense. So to me, motions, keep a lot of movement pre-snap. We didn't really see it from the Rams. I think you have to give more movement. That way you could give Goff more answers. Also screens, if they start to sit in some of that off coverage when they want to bring heat. You have to run screens underneath. Everybody hates the wide receiver screen, so run some tunnel screens, right? Run tunnel screens to get the offensive line out to that second level, or also screens down the field. You throw a slant, get guys blocking, you pick up 4 yards, then you get some blocks ahead of him. But screens, the middle of the field, I think motion has to be a big aspect of your passing attack in this one to help give Goff answers because they're going to try to speed up his clock, I think. 22.9%. It's not bad, but again, they blitz 47.7%, so that has a lot to do with it. Danielle Hunter is their best pass rusher. We know that as Lions fans. He is their guy. But on the interior, I don't see a lot of guys that are that threatening. I mean, they have some nice pieces in there that can win. Like, Jacqueline Roy can win. Bullard can win. They'll also have Pat Jones that on passing downs, he can step inside and win. So they have guys that can win. Specifically, like, I don't see a ton of, like, base down pressure they can create from the interior unless they rush passer. So usually it kind of, like, minimizes that. But if you can get them to drop out into coverage, but if they're dropping out of coverage, Goff should have a really good amount of time in the pocket, which is usually a positive if teams don't create a ton of pressure without bringing a blitz. I don't think that they do. So I think that's something that could play into our favor as well, as I don't see them getting a lot of that outside Danielle Hunter. He's the guy that you circle. He's the guy that can make some things happen specifically, and he's going to be working against their tackles a lot. Now, if you get him on a pass down, it's 3rd and 10 plus, they'll play him like Myles Garrett. He'll play over to center. He'll move everywhere. Then he becomes dangerous. But specifically on other downs, if they're not blitzing, I have a lot of confidence, and I think our offensive line should be able to win that matchup. It gives us a lot of help. Final wrinkle I'll throw in is this for our offense. Look to run the ball when they show those blitz looks. If you're coming out the gun, if it's a 3rd and 7, we know the Lions are willing to do it. Don't be afraid to run the football, because even if they don't bring it and they drop out, you can still have success. They want to get after you. So if it's 1st down, you come out the gun. They're showing pressure. Hand the football off. There's nothing wrong with that. This is a team that you can exploit. We've seen teams do it. You can exploit them when they try to give you some of those pressure looks, and that's where sometimes your biggest runs will come into play. So for me in this one, man, this is an awesome challenge for Ben Johnson. I'm so curious to see how he handles this. It's the biggest test, I think, so far this season, maybe outside of Baltimore, because their defense is so good. But it's a huge test because Brian Flores is here. He's in our division. We got to play him twice until he's not here. So can the Lions find an answer? Can they find consistency for this defense? It's always be Duff. It's just a really good defense, so it's not going to be perfect. I don't expect it to look perfect, but can we find things that we're comfortable with just to feel like we can have answers continuously against this defense? That's the challenge in this game. So for me, in this one, my original prediction was 28-18. We did it on the round table, but honestly, I'm going to step back and say, and that's closer to the over-under, which is set at 47.5. You can see the spread is -3 for the Lions in this game. And when I ultimately coming back and I'm doing my second prediction, I'm going to say that the Lions end up winning this game, of course. I'm going to say they go win the NFC North in Minnesota, but I don't think they're going to do it with that many points. I think it's going to be 20-13 Lions. I think 20 should be honestly okay. It's more about then how does the defense perform? Does the defense hold them to what they should? If they do, I think you handle business. So I'll go 20-13 in this game. A little bit lower scoring in this one, but the difference will be this, and it usually is, it's the turnover battle. Are they forcing turnovers? If they are, we better force some turnovers. That's not to say that if they win the turnover battle by 1, they win this game. I think we're a better team than they are. However, it's like, does this margin get out of hand? If it's Minnesota +1, I think we can win this game. If it's Minnesota +3, we're probably losing this football game. And that's usually how we've lost every game this season outside of one. So for that, I think turnover battle, this is the game to circle that as importance, as well as 1st down on both sides of the ball. I'm going to say the Lions win it in a low-scoring affair. I look for Jamison and Khalif to be the difference makers, specifically Jamison. We've seen him get going. We've seen him make some contested grabs. If they want to play one-on-one a blitz, they shouldn't be able to cover you. Go beat them. Go beat them up. And I think this is the game where he goes out there and he's a difference maker for us, even if he's not getting the ball over and over. So to me, man, that's my prediction. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you, Prop, for watching, and I'm out.
Again, shout out to BetUS for partnering with us for the season. Use that top link in the description. Deposit at least $100. You get 125% match up to $2,500. Are you looking to make some bets for this weekend? That's the place to do it. Maybe there's some lines. I'll tell you a line that really intrigues me. The fact that the Colts are favored as of the time of recording this, I think that's an interesting one. Thank you, Prop, for watching. Hopefully y'all enjoyed, and I'll see y'all this weekend. Lions Vikings. We out.